Welcome to another fun-filled hashtag Friday edition of Second City Sports right here on Sports Zone Chicago. Along with Miss Lakeena McGee, I am Sydney Brown. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter and IG at SidKid80. That's at SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. SIDKID80.
Follow me at Keenan McGee on the Twitter and at Keenan McGee on the IG.
You can catch Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago live every Monday and Friday, right here from noon to 2 p.m. Central Standard Time, right here on Sports Zone Chicago. Once again, Second City Sports every Monday and every Friday, right here on Sports Zone Chicago, live and in living color. And you make sure you download that Sports Zone Chicago app wherever you get your apps, whether it's the Apple iTunes Store or Google Play, wherever you get your apps. Make sure it says Sports Zone Chicago. Why? Because you can catch live shows like ours, Second City Sports, any of our 5 live shows. If you miss them, you can go back and catch the replay, the audio version, and the video version of any of our shows, including this one. And make sure you follow Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms. That's Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Once again, follow Sports Zone Chicago on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. If you want to catch the audio version of this podcast, you can do so by subscribing to War on Anchor. That's WARR on Anchor on all podcast platforms, including the iHeartRadio app, if you want to catch the audio version of Second City Sports. And speaking of War Media, you can follow those guys on all social media platforms like Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube at WARR Media. That's once again at War Media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Thank you very much in advance for your support.
Like, share, subscribe, and tell your friends.
We are unapologetically fun, and we have very definite opinions. And before we get started, if you want to participate in today's show and any part during our show today from now until 2 o'clock, you can do so by going to Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Place your comments or questions in the comments section. Lakeena will get them up on the screen for you. We love you guys. You've been a great audience so far. But if somebody decides to troll or go off and do something stupid, Lakeena has my permission to give you the Beerland Beer boot.
Bye-bye.
Coming up on today's show, as far as guests is concerned, we'll have new sports director of CBS 2 Chicago, Mr. Marshall Harris. He'll join us at the top of next hour to talk Chicago sports, his career, and perhaps 90s R&B music. We'll give you a hint about that. That's next hour. And of course, at 1:30, we'll have Christine Manika, our buddy from KXRB in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. She's going to help us preview and pick our games for Week 9 in the National Football League. Lakeena, I'm not going to ask you now. I know we mentioned this during our last show on Monday. All of us did bad, but yeah. I want to see who survived with the lead after last week. Halloween was something else in the National Football League, and we saw what we saw last night between Indianapolis and the New York Jets. If we see that again this Sunday. It's going to get crazy, but we'll talk NFL later. Right now, let's start off this edition of Hashtag Football Friday with some basketball talk, in particular the Chicago Bulls. The Bulls right now are sitting at the top of the Eastern Conference with a 6-2 record. They split their games earlier this week. They defeated the Boston Celtics on Monday by the score of 128-114 after trailing by 18 points. They're the first team since the shot clock era to win their game by 14 points or more after trailing by 18 points in the first half. And of course, they lost to Philadelphia on Wednesday by the score of 103-98. Lakeena, let's go to the Boston game this past Monday. DeMar DeRozan, as Stacey Keene on the broadcast said, DeRozan's in the house. DeRozan has been the closer for this Bulls team during this early start of the season so far. He had 37.6 rebounds, 2 assists. Jaylen Brown led Boston with 28.7 rebounds and 3 assists. Lakeena, just my quick review of the Boston win. The Bulls came out hot early, especially from the field, shooting from 3-point range. They got the ball inside. Ayo Dosunmu had a career high of 14 points. He looked good on 6-of-6 shooting. Of course, in that third quarter, the Bulls couldn't find their stroke. That's how Boston got back in the game and developed that 18-point lead. But the Bulls turned it up defensively in that fourth quarter, and that's how they got the victory. And shots went down again.
39-11 was that fourth quarter score. And, Io had 14 points off the bench, and DeRozan the 37 points. I remember hearing a lot of national pundits say that, oh well, DeRozan's not a good fit for the Bulls. Where they're gonna fit him? Where's he gonna play? How is that gonna get along? I heard all of that. We heard all
Mhm.
of that during the off season. He's been in just fine. Thank you very much. He was 3 for 4 from three, and hit some big shots late. Kind of put the dagger on him. They got Marcus Smart to kind of let out some grievances there. That's another thing that we'll probably
Mhm.
talk about later. But they had great contributions. That was a good team win. Vucevic had a double. Lonzo added 20, added 12. Zach had 26, and had a couple big rebounds late. So look, I think this is the type of win that you want. Now we'll talk about it in the Philly game, but I don't want this to be a habit. Now let's not
Mhm.
make this into a habit where, hey, let's go down 12 or 14 points, and then we can kind of come back. No, you don't want to do that, because you can't afford to do that against the Milwaukee Bucks and the Brooklyn Nets. You can't afford to and even a lot of teams in the Western Conference. You can't afford to do those type of things. So let's see if we can kind of find the mojo, find the groove, and just hopefully we can kind of be consistent. And let's remember too, with P. Will being gone for the year, there's going to be different guys that are going to need contributions. Javonte Green has some nice contribution. Derrick Jones Jr., you may see him more during the lineup. I think Caruso's doing what he's supposed to do.
Mhm.
So I think, look, Coach Donovan's got a lot of pieces to play with. So I think that's what really helps in that sense. One guy goes down, the other guy step up. Another guy struggles, the other guy steps up. So I think that's sort of like a good thing, to kind of have move around. And yes, what's up, Armando? Right back at you, my friends. Thanks for listening as always. Armando's one of our big listeners here on this station. And so what do you think? What's your kind of synopsis of that Monday game?
Oh, the Bulls bench scoring 30 plus points, as you mentioned, Alex Caruso. If Bulls fans haven't paid attention to him by now, I don't know what you're waiting on. And he's been one of the difference makers coming off the bench for the Bulls, scoring rise in a surprising role. But we told you guys he was going to bring that intensity defensively from the point guard position from the perimeter. He's been doing that so far this year. He's adding a shooting touch from the outside, in particular from three. And so I'm proud of him for that. Like I said, Derrick Jones Jr. got some tick on Monday, and that Bulls bench was another big part of why they beat Boston on Monday, scoring 30 plus points. Now we'll review their performance against Philadelphia in just a moment, but Ayo Dosunmu, as we mentioned at the top of the show, he had a great game. This kid couldn't miss. Obviously, the best game of his young NBA career. So you had to be encouraged by that. Of course, Tony Bradley Jr. He has some tape, but he has a foul trouble early on too. So hopefully, as he gets his feet wet and get into the system, we expect more from him as time goes on. As you mentioned, with the Patrick Williams injury. And so the Bulls have a lot of young pieces, as you mentioned. I'm glad you brought up Javonte Green, Lakeena. Of course, he's in the starting lineup replacing Patrick Williams. I like this kid a lot. I'm not putting him in the Hall of Fame just yet. I'm not putting him in the All-Star game, anything like that. But this kid can jump out the gym, and he has that athleticism. There's something that this Bulls team hasn't had for a long time. And so he could get up and down the floor. He can score inside with the best of them. I just want to see him improve defensively because, young players like that, they're not committed fully on defense, they'll get burned, and that's what's going to get you on the bench for a long time. But I like Javonte Green. He's fastly becoming one of my new favorite Bulls players.
Yeah, I think that he's definitely going to be a cult figure, one of the cult figures here in Chicago. Now let's move on to the Sixers game. Sort of like the same situation that happened a couple of days ago. They went down early, and but unfortunately, just couldn't do it. I think they got to as low as like 6, but then they weren't. Seth Curry, not Steph. Seth Curry, hits a couple of key shots, and apparently, I guess Joel Embiid's undefeated against the Bulls in his career. So go figure. So, but the Bulls, the good news is the Bulls actually has a chance to get them back tomorrow, and they're kind of, the Sixers are starting to have kind of COVID issues there. So, well, what was your sort of quick summary of Wednesday's game?
Yeah, just taking a page out of your playbook, Lakeena, especially against good teams like Philadelphia and Milwaukee. You cannot fall behind and expect to spend all your energy coming back, and then you fall short, because that's going to catch up with you, especially later on in the season. You definitely cannot do that in the playoffs. As we said before, give this Bulls team credit for fighting back, but You can't put yourself in a hole too many times, and that's going to spend a lot of energy, especially with your superstar players. Now, DeRozan had a great game again with 37 points. Zach LaVine, as you mentioned on Sean Meyer, he's playing with one hand right now. He struggled from the 3-point land, shooting 2 of 7, but he did contribute with 27 points. But it was only 13 points total, Lakeena, from your
Yep.
bench, comparing to 30 plus points against Boston. That's not going to get it done. You didn't get much from your bench outside of Caruso and a little bit of
Right.
Desumo, but uh, uh, the situation has to change for Chicago as far as their bench players are concerned. They have to be more consistent. And as I said before, Lakeena, now with the injury to Williams, I want to see Tony Bradley Jr. And whoever else is going to step up defensively coming off the bench to get those rebounds, because we had Daniel Gafford last year before he was traded. We had Daniel Tice last year. Of course, now he's with Houston. You brought that intensity from the big man position off the bench defensively. We don't have that now. And so it's up to Tony Bradley Jr. and some of these other guys to fill in those roles until maybe AK or Mark Eversley decides to bring in the big guy at the trade deadline. So everybody on the bench defensively is going to have to pick it up, because after Vucevic, you really have a small lineup.
Yeah, and I know some people are already worried about Vucevic. Since he's had his
Mhm.
struggles, he scored 4 points in that game on Wednesday. But
Mhm.
I think he just needs to keep shooting. I know some people say, "Hey, take him out the lineup and replace him with what?" He's your one good interior guy
Exactly.
big interior guy on the inside. So for people who are kind of calling for him to sort of get him out the lineup, maybe that's the only way he'll be able to kind of get back into it. And look, I kind of feel like at this point you have to just, he'll get it together. I feel like he'll definitely, get his groove back. And I kind of feel
Mhm.
like, okay, you know what? Let's just look. It's going to take him a little bit, but yeah, I think he'll get it together.
You're listening to Second City Sports Live and in living color on the hashtag Football Friday edition right here on Sports Zone Chicago. Sid Lakeena here with you, Second City Sports. If you want to comment or have a question for us during any point of our show today, you can go to Sports Zone Chicago on Facebook or Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Place your comments or questions in the comment section. Lakeena will get them up on the screen for you. As during this block, we're talking Bulls in NBA. Lakeena, getting back to the Bulls, like I said, Vucevic, I've been worried about him a little bit. He's just going to have to play through it. Like you said, what you going to replace him with? As we just mentioned, they have a lack of depth behind him as far as young big man right now. So you just got to let him play himself through this, and I think he'll be fine. We all know that when he was brought here last year, he's not a defensive player. He's an offensive player. He can get you those rebounds from the offensive end, but defensively, he has to be adequate. He's not Dwight Howard or DeAndre Jordan when he's going to block shots and patrol the
Mm-mm.
paint, dominate from that area. He's not that guy. He's never been that guy. I don't expect it to be that guy overnight. He has to be somewhat adequate on the defensive end, but offensively, it's going to take him a little bit more time. I know some folks don't want to hear that, but I think he'll be just fine.
Yeah, I know some people say, well, he's over 30, he's already washed up. I think no, look, he's been one of the most
Mhm.
consistent guys in the NBA since he came on. So I think people need to kind of just chill on that. I think, like you said
Mhm.
before, he was the guy in Orlando. People forget that, and there wasn't really much around him. Maybe Aaron Gordon, a couple other guys, but Vooch was the
Evan
guy, and now
Fournier, and
he's
that's
in
about
a,
it.
a
Yeah.
team where he doesn't have to be. Yeah, and no, he's on a team where he doesn't need to be that guy.
Hmm.
He doesn't have to be that guy. So now, he's starting to learn like what his role is. So I think let's give him some time. He'll find it. And look, this is sort of, he came back in the middle of last year. So
Hmm.
so what else caught your eye in the NBA this week?
Let's go back to last night's game between the Oklahoma City Thunder and your Los Angeles Lakers. The Lakers took it on the chin again, 107-104 at Staples Center. The Thunder are 2-6 on the year. Both their victories have come against the Lakers. Of both games, LeBron James has missed. Now, LeBron James will be missing a week due to his abdominal strain injury. Anthony Davis, who got hurt in last night's game, he came back, scored 29 points, grabbed 18 rebounds, and dished 5 assists. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander had 28 points, including a Steph Curry, Dame Lillard type local three with under a minute to go, which turned out to be the difference in the game. Lakeena, we all know that Oklahoma City is a college basketball team at best, even when you look at the names on the roster. But for some reason this year,
Mhm.
the Lakers, they had the Lakers number. Of course, Russell Westbrook and Anthony Davis got into it with Williams, and I believe Alexander last night
Yeah.
after that shot. So, and of course, that next play, Oklahoma City got the inbounds pass in, and they had the dunk to cut it to 4 before Carmelo Anthony cut it to 1 with a 3-pointer. And of course, OKC wrapped it up with 2 free throws. But Lakeena, everybody's worried about the Lakers. If you're a Lakers fan, you should be worried, and not only because of the chemistry, but LeBron James. Let's face it, he's not going to play 82 games anymore in this at this stage of his career. He's in his, I believe, his 19th season. And so, those tires have started to wear down. And of course, he's been injured 2 out of 3 years he's been in Los Angeles. So, I know some people suspected that he's low managing. I think he is just a little bit. If you're the Lakers, you have to be smart right now, even though this is the not even the first full month into the new season yet. You have to be careful because this is about the long run. Would you like for him to play at least 70, 75 games? Yes, but I don't know if that's going to be possible for him. Anthony Davis as well, even though, as we said, the offense should go through him, and it did last night, obviously without LeBron. But the most consistent player, actually two, but the most consistent players that I've been impressed with the Lakers so far is Carmelo Anthony and Kim Bazemore.
Yeah, Baseball didn't have a good night last night. He was only,
Mhm.
he only had 2 points, and look, DeAndre Jordan only had 1 point. That's not going to help you. Carmelo's been the most consistent guy. Maybe he needs to be in the starting lineup. There are folks that are already maybe asking, perhaps maybe Mike, Frank Vogel's head. Can he coach all these guys? You need somebody to kind of hold down the fort until LeBron comes back. Rondo didn't have any points, so you wonder that is it just as much of a talent issue as it's more of a coaching issue, especially if they get into they're 5-4 as of right now. If
Mhm.
they go to like maybe 20 games in and they're still struggling right at 500, so heads are going to be rolling in Los Angeles. So I think they need to kind of get it together, do it quick, because there's going to be a lot of people. And the first person that's going to get the blame is Frank Vogel not being able to coach this team. So we'll just have to wait and see.
And the Lakers have a 6-game road trip coming up, which kicks off Saturday night at Portland at 9:30 p.m. Chicago time. We'll give you the key games coming up this weekend in the association in just a moment as you're listening to Second City Sports on the hashtag Football Friday. We're live in 11 color. Sid Lakeena with you as we talk NBA basketball. Lakeena, another big story from the league this week. Actually, the story broke yesterday from Baxter Holmes of ESPN.com. Of course, the Robert Sarver situation. He's the owner of the Phoenix Suns. There have been reports that of misogyny and racism, him using the N word with certain black employees. Of course, ex head coach Earl Watson, who's currently an assistant coach with the Toronto Raptors, came out and said that he was in a report that said that the Mr. Server said some egregious things, and he told them, you can't say those words around me or my players. And of course, Lindsey Hunter, who's now the head coach at Mississippi Valley State in college basketball. Of course, he came from, I believe, Jacksonville State, when the Pistons drafted him. Jackson State, sorry. Yeah, Jackson State. Yeah, he was a replacement for Isaiah Thomas back in the mid-'90s. He was on The Odd Couple on Fox Sports Radio Net last night because he was the interim coach a decade ago at Phoenix. He said he didn't hear any of that stuff, but he heard through Lance Blanks, who was another former NBA player who was the GM at the time. And Lance Blanks, the owner, said some crazy things to him as well. And Lindsey Hunter said in that interview last night, if someone said something to me like that, I would have addressed them and spoke out about it right away. So this story is far from over, Lakeena. I know many people had compared it to the Donald Sterling situation. I know that was a big issue when Adam Silver took over during the 2014 playoffs. That's when that whole thing went down. I know the league is now currently launching their own investigation, but if they find some more things on top of this, they have no choice but to force Server to sell the Suns.
Yeah, it's gonna. Yeah, look, if you read the initial report, the allegations, as if you will, that it's not It's not pretty. And look, your
Mhm,
Earl Watson was upfront about it when he was in the head coach there. He said,
mhm,
"Look, there was some stuff that happened, and and look, and understandably, he's not going to say anything until I'm sure the NBA will approach him. What's happened? Same thing with Coach Hunter.
mhm,
So this is and look, Monty Williams, can only do control what's going on right now. So he's just going to concentrate on his team, and you know if they ask him, they'll tell the truth and be forthright. But look, it's gotten to the point where I think folks need to, like this is the kind of stuff that's not happening. Toxic work environments, whether it's with race or sex
mhm.
or both, or just mistreatment of people. I think people are not taking it too kindly anymore, and people are speaking up about it. And it's look, I think if it turns out that this stuff did happen, I think they might have to force them to sell, but you just gotta wait until the whole report comes out.
Yeah, so we mentioned before this story is long for over, so we'll as soon as anything develops, you can bet for sure that we'll be talking about it right here on Second City Sports, here on Sports Zone Chicago. Lakeena, let's take a look at tonight's schedule for tonight's games. The Nets will visit the Pistons at 6 p.m. Central Standard Time from Detroit. Of course, the Nets defeated the Pistons on their home floor last Sunday night. Of course, you have the Spurs and the Magic at the same time. The Wizards will host the Memphis Grizzlies, two 5-3 teams there. Of course, the first game of the ESPN doubleheader tonight at 6:30 p.m. We have the New York Knicks traveling to Milwaukee to face the defending champion Bucks. The Knicks are 5-3. The Bucks are 4-4. At 7 o'clock, we have the second of the quote-unquote home and home series between the Clippers and Timberwolves. These two teams played early in the week. Actually, it was on Tuesday. The Clippers won that one, so the rematch will be tonight. And of course, the nightcap on ESPN at 9 p.m. Central Standard Time. The New Orleans Pelicans will travel to San Francisco to take on the Golden State Warriors. At the same time, we'll have the Pacers at Trailblazers and the Charlotte Hornets at the Sacramento Kings. Charlotte is 5-4. The Kings checking at 4-4.
Should be some really good matches here tonight. For tomorrow, you got Utah and Miami. Miami hoping to bounce back from their loss to Boston last night. That should be an interesting one. That's the first game of the NBA TV doubleheader. Of course, you got Philly and Chicago. You got a you got an early game here in with Houston and Denver. This I know some people are wondering why are they playing so early. I think it's kind of like I think it's sort of I think they got something scheduled, I guess, for that particular day, so that's why they're doing it at
Mm-hmm.
4 o'clock. I don't know what it is. I think it's a concert or something. That's why they're doing it this early, but that should be an interesting one. Then you got Boston and Dallas. I mean, all the upheaval in Boston. Dallas had their struggles too, so the
Mm-hmm.
7:30 game that should be an interesting one, and also to Atlanta and Phoenix with all the stuff going on, can the Suns, now can they sort of like try to kind of get their head off the on what's going on now? Devin Booker versus Trey Young, that should be a fun one, and
Mm-hmm.
also too the 9:30, the nightcapper on NBA TV. You got the LeBron-less Lakers against Portland. Yeah, AD and Carmelo in the game versus Damian Lillard and CJ McCollum, and the Blazers. So that should be a fun one at 9:30 on NBA TV.
Yeah, those two teams referring to the Lakers and Blazers, even during the lean years for both those franchises, that's always been a rivalry game. Portland's always been jealous of the Lakers, small town team against the big city lights, and it's going to stink without LeBron James. But it should be a competitive one tomorrow night. I expect Damian Lillard to show out. He always does, especially against the Lakers. Let's go heading towards Sunday's action as we get it locked and loaded here. The New Jersey Nets will travel to Toronto to take on the Raptors at 2:30. At 5 o'clock Central Standard Time, the Cleveland Cavaliers at above 500 as of this recording. They'll head to MSG to take on the New York Knicks. At the same time, the Utah Jazz will continue their East Coast road trip. They'll travel to Orlando to face the Magic. The Bucks will face the Wizards, and the Pacers will take on the Sacramento Kings. At 6 p.m. on NBA TV, we'll have San Antonio at Houston, two bad teams. At 7:30, we'll have Houston at the Golden State Warriors. And then at 8 o'clock to wrap up your Sunday night, we'll have the Charlotte Hornets at the Los Angeles Clippers.
Should
So
be interesting.
those are your games from the association this weekend.
Some of those the Brooklyn Toronto one, that's an early now. So if you're in between the NFL games, for folks that if the NFL games are boring, that should be a really good matchup for This for Sunday, also to Milwaukee and Washington. That's a tricky one there at 5
Mhm.
o'clock. I think that's Washington's doing better than a lot of people thought. So I think they want to show folks they're for real, beating the defending champs. They've
Mhm.
had some of their various issues. Chris Middleton, I think, is still in COVID protocol, so he may not be able to play on Sunday. So some interesting matchups this weekend in the NBA.
Yes, and we'll give you our best and worst from the NBA from this upcoming weekend on our show on Monday. You're listening to Hashtag Football Friday on Second City Sports Live in living color on Sports Zone Chicago. I'm Sid. That's Lakeena. On the flip side, since we are at the bottom of the hour, we'll give you our top games to watch for in college football for Week 10 coming up, and we'll put our capper on the 2021 MLB season as the Atlanta Braves are your new world champions of baseball. You're listening to Second City Sports live and in living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago.
AutomotiveMap.com presents the Sports Flash on the Sports Zone Chicago. In Sunday's Major League Baseball action, the Cubs got pounded 9-1 at home against Kansas City. The White Sox shut out on the road 9-0 at Tampa. NFL preseason on Saturday, the Bills hammered the Bears 41-15. Andy Dalton, 11 of 17, passing 146 yards, a touchdown, and an interception. Justin Fields, 9 of 19 for 80 yards. Head coach Matt Nagy says Dalton remains the Week 1 starter and that Fields is ahead of schedule.
When you look at a guy like Justin and you see the things that he's doing, are there some things that he can get better at? Yeah, for sure. That's going to be, we're going to say that 3 years from now. But at the same point in time, for him, there's also things that he's doing better probably than we thought coming into this, which is good too. Like, that's what we want. We want that to happen.
Download the free Score app. Lightning fast updates so you never miss a thing. It's why the Score app is one of North America's most popular sports apps. I'm Chuck Sanders. That's the Sports Flash on the Sports Zone Chicago.
Blue Star medicated ointment works fast to relieve the pain and itch of almost any skin irritation.
It's amazing. It's like as soon as you put it on, you can feel it working. We've had Blue Star in the family for years. It works on everything.
I love the cooling sensation on my athlete's foot.
What a relief for my eczema.
Nothing worked on my dry, cracked skin until I tried Blue Star.
Blue Star is great for scalp itch.
Look for the white box with the Blue Star in the first aid section. Feel Blue Star work fast or your money back.
Want to hear something amazing? Discover matches all the cash back you earn on your credit card at the end of your first year, automatically, dollar for dollar, with no limit on how much you can earn. Extra cash? Come on, how amazing is that? In fact, it's even more amazing when you realize all the places where Discover is accepted. 99% of places in the U.S. that take credit cards. So when it comes to Discover, get used to hearing yes more often. Learn more at discover.com/yes. 2021 Nielsen Report. Limitations apply.
Welcome back to Hashtag Football Friday, the Second City Sports live and in living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago. Sid Lakeena here with you. Lakeena, before we get into college football, let's put a capper on this 2021 Major League Baseball season as the Atlanta Braves are your 2021 World Series champions after defeating the Houston Astros on Tuesday in Game 6 on the road by the score of 7-0. This is the first time a game clincher has a final score, a shutout final score since the 05 Chicago White Sox. They blanked the Houston Astros 1-0 in Game 4. Lakeena, or Jorge Soler, the former Chicago Cub who had a ring with the Cubs back in 2016. He has another championship ring now with the Atlanta Braves. He's a free agent. He's your unanimous MVP winner for the World Series. Lakeena, as I said on our show on Monday, if the Braves couldn't win it in Game 6, even though I had them in 7, if the Braves couldn't get the Astros in Game 6, it was no way in hell they were going to win a Game 7. But they took it to the Houston Astros right away, and they got it done.
Yeah, you're happy for a lot of guys. Soler became just the second Cuban-born player to win the World Series MVP, joining Livan Hernandez all the way back. It was in '97 with the Marlins. He's also just the third World Series MVP to play for another team that same season. Steve Pearce, who he played for the Red Sox that won there, and also Don Clenderon, who played for those Miracle 69 Mets. And look, I mean, they were 44 and 45 going into the All-Star break. They had Ronald Acuna Jr., who was their top player, gets hurt. They had injuries before the season. they joined the Cardinals, the only teams to go having a losing record at the All-Star break to win the World Series. So look, it's never over. So you're happy for him. You have Evan Rosario, who, one other guy that came came to the Braves in the trade deadline. Also, too, of course, Jock Peterson as well. He gets his second World Series ring. You're happy for Freddie Freeman. He's just a fourth player in Braves history to win both MVP and now World Series title. Pretty interesting list he joins. Hank Aaron, Chipper Jones, and Johnny Evers. So that's a pretty impressive list. So just you're happy all around for a lot of guys. Also, Ron Washington gets his first World Series after losing two as a manager, of course, with the Rangers. So you're happy for a lot of guys on there. And look, I think I think this is a sign of you never give up. You don't give up if you're having a losing record. Now again, this like I said, the Braves are only the second team to do it, but look, they got hot at the right time, and all their guys kind of meshed together. And look, can they repeat? I know they're going to be. I think they're like third or fourth in the current. I guess like the odds for next year. I think they're like in the top 5, but they're not near the top. So you're happy for Brian Snitker as well too. He gets his first World Series as a manager. There were some people that thought that maybe he couldn't do the job. So I think he proved everybody wrong after that bad start. So. Look, I think you're happy for a lot of the guys that are on there, and look, I think that they're the proof. They're proof that you don't give up.
And also, so you gotta be happy for Freddie Freeman, who it's ironic that Dansby Swanson, who was crying to Ken Rosenthal after the game, and also he did the same thing on MLB Network. He threw the last out to Freddie Freeman because they had a chance to throw the second and to get the easy out. But I thought it was ironic that Swanson threw to Freddie Freeman because Freddie Freeman is the oldest and the longest tenured player on this current Braves roster, and he gets his first World Series ring. He was pretty emotional about finally winning a World Series ring. Patience finally pays off. Of course, the Atlanta Braves during his tenure, they've been in the playoffs a few times, but just couldn't get over it. And as we talked about before, Lakeena, all those Braves players said after they won the NL East title, taking down the Philadelphia Phillies, they had some unfinished business, referring to blowing the 3-1 series lead in the bubble last year against the LA Dodgers, who went on to win the World Series last year. So they exercised some demons. I know the city of Atlanta gets a bad rap at times, maybe deservedly so, especially with that baseball franchise. But this Braves team wiped that all away this past Tuesday.
Yeah, I think it's good. Yeah, and I think you have for all those guys. Also, too, Brian's son is the first base coach. His son Troy is a hitting coach. So I think that's gonna be interesting Thanksgiving in a few weeks. With those with those two. But I mean, look, I think the sort of the key where you're happy for Atlanta. They have won in years like 2 years, 23 years or something like that they had. It's been a while since they won the World Series, so you feel good for those folks and the people in Atlanta because they've had it pretty bad the last few years. But look, I think could they repeat? Sure, but it's hard to do. That's why I think what the last people to do it was the Red Sox. So the Yankees I think so. That's look. There's a reason why. Look, ask the Dodgers, ask the Cubs. We'll see if they can change it. It's gonna be tough, but. Like you said, I mean, look, Jorge Soler is going to be asking for a lot, during the market. He's 29, so do you want to take a chance of paying big money to a 29-year-old? But look, he has a World Series MVP now, so and a couple of World Series rings now, so he can probably ask for a lot of money.
Yes, he will be asking a whole lot of money as he'll hit the open market. This coming off season. Lakeena, since we have a couple of minutes left before we hit our top games for the weekend for college football, we talked about this on Sean and Maya in the morning with our guy Sean Sierra during last hour. The White Sox will have a couple of questions to answer during this offseason. Rather, it'll depend on how the new collective bargaining agreement will look. It expires on December 1st, but the White Sox need a right fielder. They need a second baseman. I know Nick Castellanos, who was a former Cubs player from a few years ago. He's an option for right field. Of course, Javi Baez and Marcus Semien, they'll be the top 2 free agents as far as second baseman is concerned. This upcoming off season for the White Sox, you have some options, but you don't have to tear down this roster. This doesn't need a overhaul like it has needed over the last several years, you are in contention to keep this thing going for a few years until you win the World Series.
Well, like you said, there's going to be a lot of suitors now. Will Rick Hahn have the go ahead to spend the money? I think that's going to be the number one question. And look, again, that's going to be the sort of like the thing where is he going to be able to kind of be able to open the checkbook, if you will, and spend some of the money that will be needed in order to put out a contending team. You got to think that their window's still about what 2 or 3 years. So you wonder like, okay, what can he do? Look, you could try to get Soler, but like I've been saying, there's going to be a lot of teams are going to be after him. So you're probably going to have to break the bank. Do you want to break the bank for a 29-year-old? Maybe he is a little bit older, but that's a whole other thing. But look, if he's him being, are you going to spend the money for that? I don't think the White Sox are going to be willing to do that. So let's see what happens. Again, you got some hot stove stuff coming up, and it's going to get very interesting, especially with the labor strife is still like unresolved. So we may have to wait a little bit, but again, we'll see what happens.
As far as second base is concerned for the White Sox, I would like to see Javi Baez. He's a young veteran that will bring that experience to this White Sox team. He has a World Series ring with that Cubs team back in 2016. That's when he was a young player, but he's developed over the last couple of years as far as being a very good hitter. He's still a power hitter, but he could have won MVP a couple of years ago with the Chicago Cubs. Now, I know the shenanigans that he pulled with the New York media and doing the whole thumbs down thing. I'm not too worried about that. I don't expect them to quote unquote act a fool if he were to join the White Sox, because this young White Sox core, they like playing for La Russa. And if anybody steps down the line, I think the players will step in there first before La Russa has to. If anybody steps down the line, let me repeat again. I'm not saying that Javi Baez is a cancer or anything like that. That's not true. But if anybody decide, I know people are going to bring up that incident what he did with the Mets. That was the pressure of the New York media. He hasn't had anything outside of the Chicago media throughout his whole career until this past season in the second half. But if anybody decides to get out of line, I think players now will check it before La Russa does. So, but still, with that being said, I still like Javi Baez to be in the White Sox uniform. I don't know the White Sox feel the same way by him, but they'll be interesting to see. Also, too, Cal Schwarber's a free agent. So, I was begging we were doing our radio show back in the studio. I was begging the White Sox to go get Cal Schwarber before he signed with the Nationals. But I don't know if the White Sox really need him now.
Well, I heard him on an interview they did with Waller and Sylvia earlier this week. He said he would give the White Sox a look again, but again, it's all about money and those type of things. Like, I think both will have their chances, and they both have they'll have their share of suitors are going to want to come after them. So we'll see what happens there. Now, Buster Posey has announced his retirement from MLB. He's one of 6 players in the division era, that's 1969, to hit 300 or better in his final NBA season, joining guys like David Ortiz, Will Clark, Kirby Puckett, Lou Brock, and Roberto Clemente. He is also, of course, won three World Series titles with San Fran. And also a Rookie of the Year and MVP. He's only the one of 2 guys to do that. Of course, P. Rose doing the other one. Is he a Hall of Famer?
I think he's a borderline Hall of Famer. He's had a good career. I believe 3 World Series titles. He is vital to those all of those things, but definitely the first 2 titles in 2010 and 2012. He actually is part of the reason why the rules have changed as far as catches colliding. You can't collide with a catcher anymore. So he's part of baseball history as far as that is concerned as well. I think it's a borderline Hall of Famer, but I wouldn't be mad if he got in, but he's on the fringe for me.
Yeah, I think he'll get in, but I think it won't be his first year. He's not first ballot. He'll probably have to wait maybe 3 or 4 years to get in, but I think he will get in because of his records. I think he leads, the Giants in hitting among catchers and among other things. So I think he'll get in. Like you said, he get 3 World Series rings, an MVP, and a Rookie of the Year. So like I said, he's only one of 2 guys, and the other guy is not going to be in the Hall of Fame. So I think MLB will probably do right and put Buster Posey in. I know people may not like him maybe for his own little antics, but he's actually a really good guy. We'll see if he does he ends up doing some analyst work for baseball. I think he's got a great personality, and I think he'll definitely add a lot to the table. So you listen to Second City Sports here on Sports Zone Chicago, along with Sydney Brown. I'm Lakeena McGee. We're going into week 10 of college football. Sid, also to, of course, the first playoff rankings came out, and some very let's just say very interesting rankings there before we get to the games for this week. Georgia's number one, Avi. Alabama is actually number two. This is actually the third time that both of them, were in the top two in the initial football rankings. Because you want to do your top four, right? Your top four right now. If I could get it up here, it's taking a minute. But Oklahoma is not. They're in eighth, and Cincy's not. They're in sixth. So, first, what do you think about the playoff rankings so far, Sid?
I know Michigan, I believe, is at number 3, and they checked in at number
Michigan
3.
State, yeah.
Michigan State. So, that's due to that big win over. They comeback win over Michigan last Saturday. So, shout out to Mel Tugger. Will it be the final standings? Chances are they're not. But as we said before, Lakeena, Cincinnati should win the remaining games on their schedule. The question is, who's going to fall off there? Will Alabama have another loss? Even if Georgia has one loss, will they keep them out the top spot? Probably not. But I think it has to do more with Michigan State and Alabama. If they those teams, I know Michigan State's undefeated right now, but if Alabama has another loss, they could really change things.
Well, and like I said before, I always thought, don't take the first playoff rankings at face value.
Exactly.
Your top four right now are Georgia, Alabama, Michigan State, and Oregon. Oregon's kind of like, I know some people are questioning that Oregon.
Yeah, that's a big shocker right there.
Well, look, if it wasn't for like just a terrible call in that Stanford game, they'd probably be right up there. They'd probably be at 2 right now behind Georgia. So I think people need to kind of like, just to relax on that. Look, I think Oklahoma, I think you're sort of like, wait, what? I don't. Okay, yeah, they had to barely hang on against Kansas, and if for Cincinnati, I think okay, they had to kind of like pull away from Tulane, but this is why I think the college football playoff is just silly. The rankings, I think it's just it's just stupid. You got Ohio State, of course, Cincinnati, like I said, at 6. And of course, like I said, Oklahoma is at 7. Michigan's actually at 8, I should say. Michigan's at 7. I know people are questioning that, but like I said before, I mean, look, these are going to change a lot these next few weeks. So I think people should not freak out at the first rankings. A lot can change, and probably a lot will change in a matter of weeks. Going into these matchups for this weekend, Utah and Stanford, that's a big one. That's 9:30 on FS1. This could probably be, Utah's kind of in the driver's seat right now in the Pac-12 South. So if Stanford, I think they would love to. They upset Oregon, so this could be another one of those sort of kind of like grind out games between these two, and this could determine a lot of who gets that division title. But again, still a lot to be decided.
Yeah, and before we move on to tomorrow's games, of course, one score locally. Northern Illinois, their winning streak came to an end as Kent State defeated them 52-47. Northern Illinois has been the only winning consistent team here in the state of Illinois. I believe they're still in the driver's seat for that MAC conference title game. So let's see if they can keep it going.
Yeah, like I said before, I mean, they kind of went above and beyond expectations. Of course, they lost a tough one to Kent State. They're still kind of like right there. Thomas Hammock has those guys playing well, and look, I think they're still the driver's seat in the MAC West, I think. So, but like I said before, a lot has to happen. A lot has to maneuver. They still got a few weeks left in the season. They got a Ball State, on ESPN2. They actually can sort of, take a gander on that. So we'll see what they do.
Yeah, shout out to our good buddy Armando again. Northern Illinois gets no love. Well, they're getting some on this show. We've been giving them love here and there throughout the season. Hopefully we can get somebody on from the school to talk Husky football with us. But that's why we do what we do here on Sports Zone Chicago. Both the radio stations here in town have not mentioned them yet. We try to mention them every week on this show. So shout out to Armando again. So we feel the same way. That's why we're mentioning them right now on Second City Sports here on Sports Zone Chicago. Let's go to tomorrow's games, Lakeena. Missouri and number 1 Georgia will get busy in Athens. That's at 11 o'clock on ESPN. The Tigers check in at 4-4. Of course, Georgia, the number 1 team in the land, at 8-0. Do we see an upset alert? I don't.
Yeah, I know. Missouri had a good start. I think they were like 4-1 or 3-1 at one point, but injuries and things like that. So they've kind of like fallen off. I think Georgia, as long as Georgia doesn't have any hiccups, they should get into the college football playoff, no problem. The big noon Saturday game.
Big news Saturday.
Yeah, the Ohio State and Nebraska. Do you think there was an upset there for the Cornhuskers?
Maybe, but not quite. Ohio State should roll in this one. They're favored by 14.5.
Okay, so Wake Forest and North Carolina. That's another game that's coming on at 11 a.m. That's this time on ABC. North Carolina has had some injuries. Wake Forest is having their best start, I think, since the early 2000s, the mid 2000s. So, do you see a potential upset there? I think the Wake Forest is where I think North Carolina thought they would be in the top 10. I think they're like number 8 and I think they're like number 9 or 10 in the college football rankings right now. So, do you see an upset here?
Maybe. UNC is favored by 2.5, and plus they lost a tough one in a shootout at South Bend last week to Notre Dame. So let's see if they can bounce back from that one. If they don't, then it's going to be a whole lot of trouble. So, like you said, Wake Forest, they're another surprise team in college football this year. These two teams have flipped positions, so we'll see what happens. This is going to be another good one in the ACC. At 11 o'clock on ESPN2, we have number 20, the Minnesota Golden Gophers. They're at 6-2. They'll host the 3-6 Final Illini. Let's move on.
Look, Minnesota, they're 4-1 in the Big Ten West. That's the important thing. And they're in the driver's seat right now. So they still got to play Iowa and Wisconsin. But you have to win against Illinois to kind of put yourself further in the driver's seat. So we'll see what they do.
I don't see an upset there. I'm sorry.
No. That's
why I said move on.
Well, yeah, they're probably not. Georgia Tech and Miami, that's an ESPN3 game. So if you guys have that, you can check that out. Let's see. California's having some COVID issues, so yeah, they've had to. I think they 10 or 12 guys have had to, stay back, because of contact traces, such. So, but I don't think that's going to matter against Arizona. Arizona's not. They're kind of like in rebuild mode. They have a new coaching staff, so that's a 2:00 game on the Pac-12 network. If you guys have it, also too, Michigan State and Purdue. Purdue pulled off an upset already this year, beating Iowa. Can they slow down Kenneth Walker III and the Spartans?
Yeah, that's what's going to come down to the run defense for Purdue and the running games for both teams. Michigan, as we mentioned at the top of the segment, they're in the top 3. They're ranked number 3 in the college football playoff poll, and they're favored by a meager 3 points on the road at Purdue. It's going to be a close game. I expect it to come down to a field goal or a big play. I think Michigan State will escape West Lafayette, Indiana, with a win.
Should be a good one here. Navy and Notre Dame on NBC. I mean,
I know you cheer for Navy.
well, yeah, they're 2-6, so they may not, but Navy's given Notre Dame issues the last couple of years, but I don't think they'll be able to do anything about it.
Yeah, the Irish are favored by 3 touchdowns.
Yeah, that's not gonna. Yeah, that's probably not happening. Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State and West Virginia at the same time on ESPN. Like I said, West Virginia can score. OK State, they need to keep winning in order to make the Big 12 title game against perhaps maybe Oklahoma once it's a Bedlam matchup in a couple of weeks. So it should be a fun one on ESPN.
Yeah, at 2:30 on ESPN2, number 6, the Cincinnati Bearcats will host Tulsa. Cincinnati should not have any problems with Tulsa.
They might take it out on Tulsa too.
Yeah,
they might take it out on them. I don't. Maybe Baylor and TCU. That should be another one, another fun one. Going back to the Big 12. That's a 2:30 Fox game, and the CBS game of the week here at 2:30. You got Auburn and Texas A&M. Auburn looking for their 3rd straight win against a ranked opponent. So this definitely bodes well for them if they want to keep their distance and keep their their destiny in the SEC West in their hands.
Yeah, Auburn's quarterback has been inconsistent in big time games.
Yeah.
So this is another big time game in the SEC, and Auburn's going to be on the road. So I want to see how this one plays out. Texas A&M is favored by 4.5.
4.5. They've been. Their offense has been pretty inconsistent too. So
that's home field advantage. That's why they're favored. That's the only reason why.
Well, Kyle Field, I'm sure that the place is usually rocking when those two play each other. So should be interesting there. Wisconsin and Rutgers. Wisconsin, they're getting hot at the right time too. So they shouldn't have any problems with Rutgers. Penn State and Maryland. Penn State's now out of the top 25. So that should be over on FS1. Mississippi State and Arkansas. That should be an interesting one. Arkansas is kind of fallen off a little bit, but hoping to get back on track against the Fighting Rick Leaches over at Mississippi State. NC State and Florida State. I mean, that's an ACC network game. I mean, that's always interesting when those two teams play. North Carolina State. So from the Coastal.
Yeah. I didn't mean to overstep you.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, that was just getting ready to say. How far has Florida State fallen off?
Yeah, they've had a couple of issues,
and that's been like that the last 3 or 4 years.
Yeah, so it's gonna let's Florida State folks. I'm sure they're not in a very good mood right now. The game of the week game of the night on ESPN at 6:00. You got Alabama hosting LSU. Can LSU pull off the upsets?
The Ed Urger one goodbye tour continues. This time in Tuscaloosa. The Alabama Crimson Tide are favored by 28.5. I think the question will come down to can LSU cover?
Yeah, that might be the question there.
I think that's going to be the only question we involve in this game. I expect Alabama to win.
Yeah, they shouldn't be having they shouldn't really have any issues with it. Kentucky at Tennessee hosting Kentucky hosting Tennessee, I should say. 6:00 on ESPN2. I know Tennessee is waiting for himself in the NCAA. We won't get into that because it's just crazy. But should be a fun one here.
They favor by 1 point.
Yeah, that should be. I guess Vegas knows something that they don't. Going to the Big Ten, Iowa and Northwestern. Iowa needs to keep pace with Minnesota in the Big 10 West, I should say. So, that should be a fun one.
Yeah, they should have no problems with the Northwestern. I'm sorry, they shouldn't.
No.
And Iowa's favored by 12.
Yeah, a little for all you Mountain West folks, you have Boise State and the Broncos. Fresno State. That should be an interesting one. Get some national love there on ESPN, CBS Sports Network. The Washington hosting Oregon. Jimmy Lake said some comments about Oregon. So it's always fun when these two teams match up. And look, there's still a lot to be decided in the Pac-12 North. So Oregon's still trying to kind of have to sort of keep winning in order to stay consistent with in the Pac-12 North. So that should be a fun one. That's 6:30 game on ABC.
I know you're looking forward to that one, Lakeena. They get the network love, your West Coast football. And what a coincidence. Oregon is ranked number 4 in the college football playoff, and they get the Saturday night primetime game. I think it's a perfect setup for an upset, but I expect Oregon to win. And there's still going to be some chatter from now to the final rankings come out later on in the season.
Indiana and Michigan. I think Michigan's going to take it out on Indiana. I know Indiana beat them last year, and I know that Indiana's kind of gave Michigan face the last few years, but Indiana has had a lot of injuries, and Michigan State's not going to be in a good mood after that loss to Sparty, so they might take it out on them. So sorry for all you folks are going to be watching this on Fox.
Yeah, and Michigan's favored by 20.5, and if you're a betting man, I would bet that too. So Michigan should take that one. At 6:30 p.m. on the SEC network, battle of 4 and 4 teams is the Florida Gators traveling to South Carolina.
The Fighting Shane Beamer. So there's been a lot of, Florida's kind of been in upheaval. Dan Mullen's job security is being called into question. So that should be an interesting one down in Columbia, South Carolina. There's usually these two teams always play well together. So that should be a fun one. FS1, you got Texas and Iowa State. Let's see. USC against Arizona State. A lot to still be decided in like I said, in the Pac-12 South. So USC is just, finishing up their season. Arizona State, you're hoping that you can still get into the Pac-12, the Pac-12 West championship.
Get back in the top 25. Let's go, Herman Edwards. Let's go.
And then, of course, the last game at 10 o'clock on FS1, you got San Diego State hoping to bounce back from that loss. And at Hawaii, always fun when those two. Always fun when they have those late games in Hawaii. I'm not staying up that late though, folks.
You gotta get ready for NFL. I understand.
Yeah, of course. And those are your week 10 matchups. Only a few weeks left in the season, it says, so a lot to still be decided.
Yes, and it should be a whole lot of fun. We have a couple of minutes left for the first hour of #Football Friday right here on Second City Sports, live and in living color, along with Lakeena McGee. I'm Cindy Brown. You're listening to Sports Zone Chicago. Lakeena, we have about less than a minute and a half left. I saw a tweet from you, and I commented on it. I believe it was yesterday that I get Xfinity, and so this channel, ESPN Classic, has not been on our system for the last about 2-3 years, but ESPN Classic will cease operations on December 31st. And I thought you made a great comment above the tweet. YouTube has really taken over,
Yeah.
especially during the pandemic. That's what yours truly was doing. I'm sure a whole lot of people as well. There's only so many old school games that these league channels can air, but there's a whole lot more options out there on YouTube, and I'm happy for it. And ESPN Classic, that's just another victim. I know ESPN has money that will resource that in other areas, but that channel has become another victim of the times.
Yeah, I remember in 1990, I think it was 1995 or 96 when the network first came about. It was just known as Classic Sports Network.
Yeah.
And like I said, it was the only place where you can find those classic games. Muhammad Ali, all those old boxing matches from the 70s. People didn't get a chance to watch it yet. That's how you learned a lot of stuff about Mr. Ali and some of the other classic boxers from back in the 70s, and also going to the 80s as well with Mike Tyson. And look, when YouTube came on and started, posting stuff, whether it's from their own site to kind of control the content, or from other folks, posted videos that they recorded, way back when on VCRs. Remember that, young folks? But I think it kind of changed it. Other resources too. So when ESPN took over, they kind of monopolized it. And we got AT&T Uverse, and we haven't had it in like 2 or 3 years as well. So a lot of some of the smaller smaller providers are have only kept it up. So I'm not surprised by this. It's definitely the end of an era. ESPN will put that resource to other things, like you said. So definitely the end of an era. So, but there's always YouTube, folks. You can actually show the commercials on YouTube too. So.
Yeah. And so that's just another channel that will be going away along with NBCSN at the end of the year. Our number 1's in the books. Our number 2 is straight ahead right here on Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago. When we return, our number 2 kicks off with a new guy, the sports director at CBS 2 Chicago. His name is Marshall Harris. He's going to hop out with us to talk Chicago sports and a whole lot more. You're listening to Second City Sports. I'm Sid. That's Lakeena. You're listening to Sports Zone Chicago.
AutomotiveMap.com presents the Sports Flash on the Sports Zone Chicago. In Sunday's Major League Baseball action, the Cubs got pounded 9-1 at home against Kansas City. The White Sox shut out on the road 9-0 at Tampa. NFL preseason on Saturday, the Bills hammered the Bears 41-15. Andy Dalton, 11 of 17 passing, 146 yards, a touchdown, and an interception. Justin Fields, 9 of 19 for 80 yards. Head coach Matt Nagy says Dalton remains the Week 1 starter and that Fields is ahead of schedule.
When you look at a guy like Justin and you see the things that he's doing, are there some things that he can get better at? Yeah, for sure. That's going to be, we're going to say that 3 years from now. But at the same point in time, for him, there's also things that he's doing better probably than we thought coming into this, which is good too. Like, that's what we want. We want that to happen.
Download the free Score app. Lightning fast updates so you never miss a thing. It's why the Score app is one of North America's most popular sports apps. I'm Chuck Sanders. That's the Sports Flash on the Sports Zone Chicago.
Blue Star medicated ointment works fast to relieve the pain and itch of almost any skin irritation.
It's amazing. It's like as soon as you put it on, you can feel it working. We've had Blue Star in the family for years. It works on everything.
I love the cooling sensation on my athlete's foot.
What a relief for my eczema.
Nothing worked on my dry, cracked skin until I tried Blue Star.
Blue Star is great for scalp itch.
Look for the white box with the blue star in the first aid section. Feel Blue Star work fast or your money back.
Want to hear something amazing? Discover matches all the cash back you earn on your credit card at the end of your first year, automatically, dollar for dollar, with no limit on how much you can earn. Extra cash? Come on, how amazing is that? In fact, it's even more amazing when you realize all the places where Discover is accepted. 99% of places in the U.S. that take credit cards. So when it comes to Discover, get used to hearing yes more often. Learn more at discover.com/yes. 2021 Nielsen Report. Limitations apply.
Welcome back to a hashtag Football Friday, hour number 2 of Second City Sports. Sid and Lakeena with you right here on Sports Zone Chicago. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, that's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You can follow me at Keena McGee on the Twitter and at Keena_McGee on the IG.
If you want to comment or have a question for us during any part of today's show, you could join us on Sports Zone Chicago on Facebook, on Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Place your questions or comments in the comments section, and Lakeena will get them up on the screen for you. But we love you, great listeners, and thank you so much for your support for joining us. But if you decide to troll or do anything silly or stupid, Lakeena will give you the Beer Lane Beer boot.
Bye-bye.
But our guest is now here. He's giving the competition the boot. He is a new marshal in town. He's the new sports director over at CBS 2 Chicago. He covers sports weeknights on WBBM TV here in Chicago. He is the one, the only, the Marshall, Mr. Marshall Harris. Young sir, first, welcome to Chicago and welcome to Second City Sports. How are you?
I'm good. How are you guys doing? I mean, I feel like, it's Friday. It doesn't feel like a normal Friday because there's no Steelers and Bears on Sunday. We got to wait an extra day.
Yeah.
I'm happy it's Friday.
Yeah, same here. Same here.
And November, and first Friday of November too. Oh, good, this year's gone by quick. How do you like covering sports here in Chicago so far? I know you came from Sacramento. I know you know our girl Layla Rahimi. I know you guys were together. Y'all were in Texas. So how do you like it, compared to the other markets you've worked at?
It's different. It's the closest thing I can say it reminds me of is when I was working in Philadelphia. I worked there for 11 years. In Sacramento, it's all about the Kings. And let's be honest, there hasn't been much royal to talk about when you talk about Sacramento Kings over the last, 15, 16 years. But here it's more like being in Philly because you got all the major sports. You got 2 baseball teams. I've already had the privilege of covering some great stuff between the Field of Dreams game. I was in Iowa for the Yankees and the White Sox. Covering the White Sox in the playoffs, the Sky clinching their first ever championship, anchoring the Sky Parade. It's been great so far.
Yeah, what's some of the places that you visited Chicago so far? I know things were starting to open back up in the summertime. What are some of the places that you visited so far in Chicago and that you liked?
It's funny because it's been pretty much to work and back every day. I work downtown at Block 37 where the CBS 2 studios are. I mean, I've been out to Hallis Hall, Soldier Field, spent a lot of time on Lakeshore Drive, and then on the lakefront in general. I try to go for a run every day, or at least 4 or 5 times a week. I've only kind of explored around here in terms of like the center of the city. I've been to the United Center, the Advocacy Center, doing like Bulls Media Day, Bulls practice. Lake Forest, Bears camp, like I said, House Hall has been a frequent place that I've visited, but it's been all kind of work-oriented stuff. I haven't really gotten out. I went on like the Wendella boat tour just so I could get an understanding of like what's what as far as these crazy buildings go. And I learned a lot on that. That was very educational. I highly recommend the boat tour if you haven't done it. Even if you're from Chicago, I bet you learned something if you go on that boat tour. So it's been a lot of that. The city's been super welcoming, though. People have been great. It's been a lot of fun. And I'm just really excited that things are, as you said, starting to open back up. And so we've got like fans in the actual stands for things. This time last year, the Bulls and the Blackhawks were playing in front of the Bulls and the Blackhawks and whatever team they were playing against.
Right.
Right. Yeah. How's that different? Of course, being, with fans and without fans, you definitely feel the difference, especially when you cover these teams and when the restrictions, especially since the restrictions are a little lesser now. So talk about it's got to be night and day, right?
It's funny because I think sometimes you forget because we have, the multi-million-dollar television rights contracts, multi-billion-dollar television rights contracts with these sports and stuff. But in its simplicity, sports was about the players and the fans. Mm-hmm. And them coming back, I'll give you an instance, the division, the wild card series between the Astros and the White Sox, just being there Sunday night, Game 3, a blackout, the first playoff game there in so long. There was a certain palpable energy that you could just feel in the air. And when you have games, because when I was in Sacramento, for instance, when they started playing again, the media was allowed to go, but there were no fans. So it'd be like literally 20 people watching a Sacramento Kings game, and it does not feel the same without the fans. The fans are the fans, and they bring, like I said, a certain energy level. They can't be faked. I don't care how much fake crowd noise you pipe into the sound. It's not the same.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you
Yes.
more, Marshall. Marshall Harris, a sports director at CBS 2 Chicago, is joining us right here on the hashtag Football Friday, Second City Sports, live and in living color. Sid Lakeena here with you on Sports Zone Chicago. Marshall, let's dive into to our local sports teams. Let's start off with the Bulls. They're the biggest thing in Chicago right now. We'll get to those sorry Bears later. But the Bulls, of course, they're 6-2. They take on Philadelphia, the 76ers, tomorrow in the revenge game at the United Center. They're 6-2 right now. They lost to Philadelphia on Wednesday on the road, but they defeated Boston in comeback fashion on Monday. Give us your quick thoughts about this Bulls team this year.
I think the Bulls are one of the more underrated teams in the NBA. At least they were. I guess now that they have one of the best records in the NBA, you can't really say they're underrated anymore. People are starting to learn. I think they've got some things to work out. They've got some things to figure out. A huge blow was losing Patrick Williams. He's a guy that can guard so many different positions. Can switch on the pick and roll if you want him to. He was in his second year. So, and there's a chance he could be back in time for like maybe a playoff run or something. But when you get guys like DeMar DeRozan and Lonzo Ball as free agents, and some people were like, yeah, they're not superstars, but you're seeing just how good they can be. I think DeMar DeRozan's never gotten his flowers, and I hope he gets them while he's still playing. Led the Raptors to a number 1 seed. Got traded, of course, and had to watch somebody else be in the driver's seat as the Raptors finally won that title. Kind of toiled in San Antonio, where he picked up some new tricks as more of a guy who would create not just for himself, but other people. And you're seeing that with these Bulls. And Lonzo Ball, he's a guy who was basically a 3-and-D player last year, asked to stand in the corner and take shots for the Pelicans, while Brandon Ingram's and point guard Zion had the ball in their hands. He's now being turned loose again. And I think they have something here. I think the thing that has to encourage Bulls fans the most right now is just the level of intensity they've been playing with on defense, which is a hard right turn from what we saw in the previous few seasons with the Bulls. And it's going to take some time to figure that offense out. But remember, you've got guys, they're a little undersized, especially now with Patrick Williams out. But the trade deadline is a thing. I think if you're a Chicago Bulls fan, they're a team not only to watch, but a team that is must watch because of the style of basketball that they play. They get out on a break, they run alley-oops, creating turnovers, one of the best three-point shooting teams here in the early going. If you're a Bulls fan, this is what you want, not a team that maybe they can make playoffs. It's a team that you want to tune into on game night. So Saturday night, tomorrow, Bulls, Sixers, like you said, you called it a revenge game. We're going to see how much better they can play. One, because they'll be at home, the fans at home. But two, they'll be able to kind of figure some things out. What went wrong? Why in the last 2 games have they fallen behind by double digits and had to claw their way back in these games? That's what Billy Donovan's job is. I got complete faith that he'll figure it out.
Yeah, totally with you on that, Marshall. How impressed has Ayo Dosunmu been? In the late 30s, as the first round, early second round pick, I should say. Chicago kid. Went to Morgan Park. The fact that he's actually already contributing for the Bulls. So far in about 2 weeks in the season. How impressive has he been?
So Ayo, what's crazy is I was actually at his draft party right here in the South Loop, and I had to go back to the station to do the 10 p.m. news because he kept slipping in the draft. We're thinking late first round, early second round. At some point I had to cut bait, go back to the station. For him to fall to his hometown team, the Bulls, right? And then to make such an impact this early in his career, when you're talking about second round players, you just want someone who can contribute. It's different. When you're a lottery player, you're like, can we develop this guy into a star? When you're a first rounder, it's like, okay, he's a solid rotation player. Maybe we can figure out a way for him to be, all-star, second, third best player on a championship team, or fourth best player on a championship team. When second round, it's kind of a gamble, A lot of players would rather be undrafted and get to pick their destination than be drafted in the second round and belong to a team but not get a guaranteed contract. Ayo has made the most of his opportunities. He's jumped over a couple of people in the rotation, And he's a guy who gets to play because he brings such a spark defensively, and he's looked more competent than I guess I thought he would as an NBA player in a half-court offense. So the growth is there. The ceiling is the limit. Ayo's been phenomenal as a hometown boy, done good. He's got to be in heaven right now.
Marshall Harris, CBS 2 Chicago's new sports director, is joining us here on the Hashtag Football Friday, live and in living color on Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago. Sid, Lakeena here with you. Marshall, since you brought up the White Sox earlier, I want to go to baseball. My team, the Chicago White Sox, of course, you were there every step of the way in the playoffs. The White Sox were ousted in 4 games against the Houston Astros. What, from your vantage point, what are the biggest concerns for the White Sox going into the offseason? Hopefully that we don't have a lockout due to the CBA.
Let me just tell you, that lockout's coming. Baseball's never been quick to get anything done. I mean, December 2nd is around the corner. That's less than a month away. Let's be real. So the lockout is coming. You just hope that there will be baseball first and foremost on time when pitchers and catchers are due to report in February. I think with the White Sox, it comes down to pitching. You saw it in the playoffs. Like, you need good pitching. And the Astros just dismantled them. You saw who beat the Astros, right?
Yep. Oh, yeah.
You saw how they did it, right? They're like, you got great hitters, but great pitching. And they've got to really take an audit of, are these arms good enough to get the job done? Offensively, you hope growth from all the guys they have in their lineup. They have a very talented lineup, but you just hope for growth in their plate approach. And, we'll see what they do at second base. That's a big question for me. But I like the White Sox to get back and, compete, but a division title is not promised to anyone. The division was really down in the AL Central. A number of teams, the Indians, the Twins, could make significant improvements year over year. And if that happens, White Sox might be in a dogfight just to make the playoffs. So their goal should be to stay out of the wild card situation and get that into the division series like they did against the Astros. But really, I think if they stay healthy, because they were hurt all year long and they didn't have that cohesion maybe that you would like, they have a chance. In baseball, what have we learned? You just have to have a chance. Whether you're talking about the Nationals 3 years ago, whether you're talking about the Braves this past year, teams that weren't leading anything halfway through the season and they took off like a bottle rocket. So not encouraging y'all to play with fireworks, but you get what I'm saying.
Yeah. Exactly. Let's talk about the North Stars for a second then, since we're doing the baseball. Carter Hawkins, of course, is the new GM. Of course, Jed Hoyer is sort of the president of the baseball operations. What do you think is the direction the Cubs will go to next season? Are they going to go into kind of like, maybe not necessarily contend, but perhaps maybe be serviceable so that they can kind of contend for 2023? What direction do you think they're going to go?
I think right now we're looking at a situation where they're like, we have no intention of rebuilding. We want to retool. We want to get a few free agent signings here and there, the right ones, can have them right there. Like I said, fighting for a wild card spot. It'll be interesting to see how many new faces we have. I mean, at the end of the season, that was just a bunch of guys that most people had never heard of. AAA guys called up and doing some decent things. So you had like older rookies, 29, 30, 31-year-old rookies out here making the most of their opportunities. But they have to kind of decide what their identity is going to be. I know you mentioned the new GM. His whole thing is he develops arms within. That's what all baseball teams should be doing right now. You can't go out here overpaying for a pitcher, because for every Max Scherzer out there, there's just guys that aren't going to give you the value that you need on the back end of a multi-year contract. Pitchers are just injuries waiting to happen. And we've seen that with the White Sox. We've seen it from time to time with the Cubs. I'm interested to see what happens though. Like, again, baseball's winter meetings apparently aren't happening because of the lockout that's impending. So it's going to take a little longer for the free agent market to develop. So who gets signed, when they get signed, may have a lot of effect on how good the Cubs are next year.
Sorry we had to take this turn, Marshall, but we have to do our job and talk about the Chicago Bears. They're are 3-5 right now. They're traveling to Pittsburgh to take on the Steelers on this coming Monday. Another national TV game. Hopefully the Bears don't get embarrassed. You have rookie Justin Fields as the quarterback. He's somebody the Bears fans are watching right now. On the flip side, the defense is getting older. They didn't have Khalil Mack last week. It was a very, very winnable game against the 49ers. I did love your breakdown of the Bears games. You check it out on social media for those of you that haven't watched it yet. But Marshall, I know you there covering practice at Hallis Hall. You there covering some of the games as well as Soldier Field. Give us your thoughts about the Bears this year.
Well, they've been disappointing. The offensive line has been hit or miss. The passing game, well, just the offense in general, not explosive enough. And you know what? Part of that, when you have a rookie quarterback, there's going to be growing pains, a learning curve, all of that. Justin Fields has come off his best game as a pro, straight up. He threw the ball with accuracy. He ran for over 100 yards. I think they're going to have to hang their hats on their defense, but I don't know if that's possible right now. As you mentioned, Khalil Mack not playing. It'll be interesting to see. One thing I'm kind of keeping my eye on is David Montgomery, activated off injured reserve, right? So what do you do with Khalil Herbert, who has been phenomenal, 6th-round pick as a rookie? Is it going to be a 1-2 punch situation? Damian Williams, I believe, is still hurt. So, I mean, he can play maybe a third down back role. But it'll be interesting to see how they balance that on offense. But they need better play calling on offense. They've got to take advantage of the athleticism of Justin Fields. This opponent this week is interesting because the Steelers, they started 1-3. They lost 3 in a row. Then they won the last 3 games they played. They're rushing the ball really well with Najee Harris. And that could be a problem for the Bears because their rushing defense has not been good, mainly because tackling isn't as good as you would hope it would be. So if they wrap up, I like the Bears to be in the game. Neither of these teams scores points.
No.
So first 1 to 21 wins, that might be what we're looking at.
Maybe 17. Odell Beckham Jr. is no longer with the Browns. He's now in a waiver wire. Some people are saying that maybe the Bears should try to take a gander at him. What say you?
If he's mad, he's not getting the ball thrown to him now. Who's the Bears' top receiver again? Who's the guy they hit the franchise tag to?
Mr. Robinson.
Mr. Robinson, A-Rob?
Oh, Mr. Robinson. Wait a minute. So, that's the guy who's averaging a career low in targets, yards, receptions. And how many touchdowns does he have this year? Oh, one, you say?
One?
Just a single? Single? Not a $5 bill, not a 20. Just a single. The George Washington head. That's what he's got. Yeah. That'd be a disaster. So no. Not with this coaching staff and this young quarterback situation. You don't want to put more stress on your quarterback than you have to.
I'm sure his father would not be very happy either. Just saying.
Exactly.
Speaking of disaster, staying with the NFL, of course, one of the big games this coming weekend will be the Green Bay Packers visiting the Kansas City Chiefs. Aaron Rodgers right away placed on the COVID list. He'll miss this Sunday's game. Second-year quarterback Jordan Love will get the start for the Packers. Of course, the talk this week is Aaron Rodgers said that he was vaccinated back in August. It turns out he's not vaccinated. It depends on who you believe. What are your thoughts on the situation, Marshall? Does he owe outside of his teammates in the organization, does he owe the media anything or anybody else to tell him the truth, whether he's been vaccinated or not, outside of the organization?
I mean, Aaron Rodgers is going to do what Aaron Rodgers does, right? So they asked him about it. He said he was immunized, which is not the same as being vaccinated. Right. They followed up. He didn't clarify. So, he knew what he was doing, half-truths, if you will.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like if you went to McDonald's, right, before supper time, and your mom was like, "Did you go to McDonald's?" And you were like, and you talked around it. It's like that he talked around the question,
right?
Okay. I don't know if you guys have heard what he said today. He went on.
I've I've been seeing Simpson on social media, and I'm like, huh? What
So
is he
apparently we're
saying?
on Pat McAfee's show, and I don't know exactly. He basically is saying everybody's coming after him, cancel culture, the woke mob, all that stuff. It's like, dude, you put your teammates' chances to win a championship at risk. Now the good news is this happened now, so now he's got the antibodies to serve him for the rest of the season, so he's clean. So I guess that's the positive to take away from it. But I'm not really. He says he did a lot of research. I don't know if you guys have heard that one before. Did a lot of research. Listening to his good friend Joe Rogan in his podcast, and that's where he got his medical advice. So, look, whatever. That's all I can say about Aaron Rodgers. We'll see what happens. I know Bears fans aren't complaining if he's missing games. That's all I know. They're just wishing he missed the Bears game.
You got that right.
Good luck to Jordan Love.
Well, the Bears have their own issues, so they can't really say anything too much about it. Let's bring it back for a second. Let's talk some college sports for a second. We'll start with college hoops. College hoops about to start next week, and unfortunately, Kofi Cockburn, from Illinois, he's serving a 3-game suspension for, I guess for selling his own merchandise or something like that. It just sounds really stupid. The NCAA is just, we won't get into that, but which local teams that can make a big splash? You got DePaul's got a new coach. Loyola's got a new coach too, and Drew Valentine. So who do you think will kind of be like that team to watch locally in college hoops?
Does Illinois count? Because I'll go with them.
Of course.
I'm going to go with the team that was the number 1 seed last year in the NCAA tournament. I'm curious about DePaul, but last night they actually played an exhibition game and beat a team from my home state, Montevallo. But the problem is they beat them 67-63. That's not inspiring confidence. You would hope that Northwestern would be better because they've got so many guys coming back. And can you do worse than a 9-15 season? Can you maybe not lose 13 games in a row? So, we're going to find out. We're all going to hold hands, sing, and find out together. College basketball is fun, ups and downs. We're dealing with college kids. Never forget that. No matter how good or bad you think a team is, we're dealing with college kids. Anything can happen.
Heading down the home stretch for CBS 2 Chicago Sports is on Marshall Harris right here on Second City Sports, live and in living color here on Sports Zone Chicago. Sid, Lakeena here with you. Marshall, you mentioned at the top that you worked in Philadelphia for 11 years. Of course, Philadelphia sports fans get a bad, they call it a quote-unquote bad reputation of being mean and nasty, but whenever something happens, they want to run away from that reputation. Where was your dealings with Philadelphia fans when you worked there?
Philadelphia fans are the most they're awesome. And you know why they're awesome? They don't understand apathy. That's not a thing that exists to them. They don't understand how not to care. So I was hosting the pre and post game shows for the Sixers during a leaner time, we'll call it, the process years.
Yeah.
Pre and post game shows for a team that went 10-72. Okay? 10-72. One more loss away from tying the all-time record. It's not like they stopped caring about the Sixers because they were terrible. If anything, they want to talk more about the Sixers because, so Jahlil Okafor, can he be that guy? Is Joel Embiid ever going to play? Nerlens Noel, what do you think? Can they fix his shot? You got to understand, there is no apathy. And that's the best thing about Philadelphia sports fans. They don't know how not to care. They're going to get on you one way or another, whether they're cheering you or booing you, but at least there will be a reaction. Other cities I've lived in, when the teams are bad, they just by the wayside. So that's what you have to love about Philadelphia.
Last question for me, Marsha. I know you and Sid, we were part of this chain where we're talking about a little bit of 90s R&B. Look, I think we're all in the same age, or at least the same age range.
Speak for yourself. I'm 29.
Well, maybe. Okay, we'll just, we're just geniuses, I guess. But, what do you think? How do you think 90s R&B is compared to today's R&B? Because I kind of listen to more 90s, 80s, 90s R&B because I think that was the best era for music on the R&B side, I should say.
It's interesting that you asked that because this morning I wasn't paying attention and I was just listening to Pandora when I was on walking outside, And I was like, yeah, this is more like what I need in my life. You know what I was listening to? Silk Sonic, Smoking Out the Window. And I was like, this is more my speed. Bring all this back. Let this album drop today.
Yes.
And you just don't get that sound anymore. And I listen to frequent 90s R&B like almost every day. I hear a song and I'm singing along, whether it's in the shower, in the car, whatever. And it was sad is I haven't even listened to that much music lately because I've been so focused on, just dipping myself in Chicago sports. I listen to a lot of sports talk radio just to make sure I'm up on what's going on and still getting my history lessons in and everything else. It's a work in progress.
Last question for me, Marshall. Of course, we try to help people along through the sports broadcast. We can only do so much. I know you help out people and mentor people as well. What is the one career advice can you give someone trying to start off in this business, get to where you are?
Oh man! First of all, I say don't get to where I am. Aim higher.
But you know what I mean.
Yeah. I think you just have to be. You have to be resilient. You have to be creative. You have to not take no for an answer in some regards. Understand it's a super subjective business. There will be people who tell you that you have no shot of doing anything, but those people don't know anything. They're human just like you and me. And Stuart Scott was told no by so many people when he tried to start in the business. You'll never do that. You know. All it took was one person to say yes. And then you make the most of that opportunity once somebody says yes. These kids today, they have more advantages than I had when I was starting out. Like we're having this conversation right now, streaming on StreamYard, whereas back in my day, you would have to go to a TV station, find somebody to let you use their camera. The stuff you can do with an iPhone or an iPad or a laptop now. So I always tell kids, you gotta be able to do 3 things, and then you can write your own ticket. Those 3 things: shoot, write, edit. And whether you want to be in front of the camera or behind the camera, if you can do those 3 things, somebody's gonna give you a job somewhere. And it's really that simple. Shoot, write, edit. But those are the 3 things you need to work on. And back in the day, we had to have like big, bulky editors to do that. Now I can just take this thing out and start editing whatever on my phone. Like it's amazing. But write, and the best way to get better at writing is by reading. Read. And get feedback from people. Just get feedback. Ask people give them a sample of your work, see what they got to say. There's something to be had in all feedback, I think, even if the feedback is terrible. It's just another opportunity for you to reflect on what you're trying to do.
Yes, I tell people all the time, Marshall, and I still apply this to what I do and what we do here on Sports Zone Chicago. You got to be versatile to everything. Everybody wants to be on the air, especially people that look like us. I don't want people to take the message the wrong way, but you have to do everything right, produce. Obviously, I book guests and not just get on here and ramble. You have to read articles, research topics, and things along that line. You got to be versatile, especially now in this social media age. You can't just limit yourself just to 1 or 2 things. So I think that's interesting advice that you gave out, and thank you for that.
Yeah, no problem. The more you can do, the better off you are. Just keep putting tools into your toolkit.
All right, man. That's some great advice. So that's the new sports director at CBS 2 Chicago, Mr. Marshall Harris. Where can people follow you on social media?
I try to be consistent throughout. So regardless, whether it's TikTok or Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, at M Harris on air. At M Harris on air. Easy enough to remember. M as in Marshall, Harris is in my last name, and then I'm on air. So that's
simple enough.
Simple enough. Awesome. Thank you so much, Marshall, for joining us today here on Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago. First of all, welcome to Chicago. You're going to do some great things here. Keep up the great work, and hopefully our teams outside the White Sox will turn it around. So you'll have some happy things to cover during the winter months, in particular the Chicago Bulls. So you're going to do some great things. Keep up the great work, young man. Welcome to our city once again. Don't hesitate to come back on this program again in the future, okay?
Thanks, Marshall.
I really appreciate y'all having me. I hope y'all have a great rest of your day and have a great weekend, okay?
All right,
you do the same. Take care. Once again, that was Mr. Marshall Harris, the new sports director at CBS 2 Chicago. Lakeena, we hit the bottom of the hour. When we return, we'll wrap up today's show with our Week 9 NFL picks with our good buddy Christine Manika right here on the hashtag Football Friday right here on Second City Sports Zone Chicago. More on the flip side when we return.
AutomotiveMap.com presents the Sports Flash on the Sports Zone Chicago. In Sunday's Major League Baseball action, the Cubs got pounded 9-1 at home against Kansas City. The White Sox shut out on the road 9-0 at Tampa. NFL preseason on Saturday, the Bills hammered the Bears 41-15. Andy Dalton, 11 of 17, passing 146 yards, a touchdown, and an interception. Justin Fields, 9 of 19 for 80 yards. Head coach Matt Nagy says Dalton remains the Week 1 starter and that Fields is ahead of schedule.
When you look at a guy like Justin and you see the things that he's doing, are there some things that he can get better at? Yeah, for sure. That's going to be, we're going to say that 3 years from now. But at the same point in time, for him, there's also things that he's doing better probably than we thought coming into this, which is good too. Like, that's what we want. We want that to happen.
Download the free Score app. Lightning fast updates so you never miss a thing. It's why the Score app is one of North America's most popular sports apps. I'm Chuck Sanders. That's the Sports Flash on the Sports Zone Chicago.
Blue Star medicated ointment works fast to relieve the pain and itch of almost any skin irritation.
It's amazing. It's like as soon as you put it on, you can feel it working. We've had Blue Star in the family for years. It works on everything.
I love the cooling sensation on my athlete's foot.
What a relief for my eczema.
Nothing worked on my dry, cracked skin until I tried Blue Star.
Blue Star is great for scalp itch.
Look for the white box with the Blue Star in the first aid section. Feel Blue Star work fast, or your money back.
Want to hear something amazing? Discover matches all the cash back you earn on your credit card at the end of your first year, automatically, dollar for dollar, with no limit on how much you can earn. Extra cash? Come on, how amazing is that? In fact, it's even more amazing when you realize all the places where Discover is accepted. 99% of places in the U.S. that take credit cards. So when it comes to Discover, get used to hearing yes more often. Learn more at discover.com/yes. 2021 Nielsen Report. Limitations apply.
Welcome back to a hashtag Football Friday right here on Sports Zone Chicago, along with Lakeena McGee. I am Sydney Brown. We are now joined by our homegirl, Miss Christine Manika of KXRB in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, as she gives us her Week 9 NFL picks. Lakeena, we said this on Monday that all of us stunk up the joint. I probably did the worst, but what is our results from last weekend overall?
Well, as I open up our little picks here, Christine, how are you this lovely Friday, early eve or afternoon, I should say?
Yeah, afternoon. I'm doing good, Besides, the Lions losing, like I said they were going to lose. I said I was going to come after you guys, and I should have stuck with my guns.
Okay, but you know what though, I will look. Well, I'll be charitable and give you that game because we talked you out of it. You actually won, and with that, you actually won last week with 8 games. Sid and I both only won 7. So Sid and I are still tied, but Christine, you actually gained a game, so you're only 2 behind. So still, look, I said we're right at the halfway point.
All that.
Yeah, I know, right? We were not very good. That was just we had some really bad ones. But you know what? Also, to the Lions, the Seahawks, the Bucks, and Washington are all on bye. So you got 4. They got 4 teams on bye. So adjust your fantasy leagues accordingly. So a quick synopsis too, real quick, guys, about last night's game between the Jets and the Colts. I guess the Mike White experiment is over with. He had a forearm injury. Josh Johnson came on and did what he could, but the defense just couldn't stop the Colts.
Christine's zoned out like I was.
I know, right?
I know. Here's the thing. You got the not so great teams playing against each other on a Thursday night, right? Mm-hmm. And then you hear the week before, okay, they have Joe Flacco now. So when are they going to use him? I get they have to use the guys that they're familiar with, but what's the point of having Joe Flacco on the team if you're not going to use him, or at least try to get him in a scrimmage or something?
I know it's crazy, but but what can you do here? So let's get right to it, though, folks. First noon game in the NFC South. You got the Falcons and the Saints. It looks like Taysom Hill is going to get the start. He's been practicing the last couple of days. So you start this one.
You say Atlanta and the Saints?
Yeah, Atlanta and the Saints. Yep.
Okay, I had to get my little cheat sheet out here. New Orleans is favored by 5.5 in the Dome. Atlanta. You think they would eventually turn the quarter and get to 500? They can't do it. New Orleans, very impressive with their win against Tampa Bay last week. They had to have a pick six in order to do it. Now, Jameis Winston's out for the year with that torn ACL. I know some people, including yours truly, thought that Cam Newton would be in a driver's seat to be signed. Maybe they'll still have it. I doubt it, but we'll see about that. As far as this game is concerned, I won't be surprised if Atlanta at least covered this, but I think it's going to be a closer game than what people expect. I'll be watching this game live via my computer, and I expect to watch a Saints close win.
This is going to be a good game. It's a close one for sure. I thought at the beginning of the season, before Winston became into the picture, that Taysom Hill would start, because we saw him a little bit last year when Drew Brees was just kind of making his exit, and I thought he was great. So I was expecting to see this guy in the beginning because he is a really good player. The Falcons, they've also looked pretty great, but now they're in the Saints territory, so this is a home game for the Saints. It's going to be a close one. I'm going to go with New Orleans. And no, Sid, you're not changing my mind with this.
I said New Orleans for the win. I said New Orleans for the win. So don't even start with that with me, young lady.
Scrap again. I'm literally just going to stick to my guns this week.
Yes, as you should, because I'm picking the Saints too. Let's make it a sweep, because it's going to be close. So it might come down to a field goal, I think, but or last possession. But I think it's going to be very close, as it usually is between these two teams. A good one here, maybe Broncos and the 6-1 Cowboys. Christine, you start this one.
The Broncos, they've been struggling recently. They're starting to get back momentum. But Dallas, they just had that great win on Monday night, so it's kind of a quick turnaround for them in a sense. But I've said it once, I'm saying it again. I think Dak is back. I think this is probably the best Dallas has looked in a very long time. And with that having a really good quarterback in Dak right now, and saying, yes, I'm for sure playing this week. I'm good. I'm safe to go. I'm going to go with Dallas for this one.
Short and simple for me. Cowboys, they're favored by 7.5. They'll cover that one easily. Hopefully they'll stomp on the foot on the Broncos early. And this is a rare noon game for the Dallas Cowboys, because most of the games start at 3:30, or they usually are on in prime time Sunday or Monday night. It was a very good win by the Cowboys last Sunday night in Minnesota. We'll talk about Minnesota later. But Dallas, they're the better team. They should stump on the Broncos early. So I'm going with the Cowboys.
Yeah,
and no, Christine, I'm not changing your mind on that one either.
I'm leaving. Yeah, I'm leaving that alone. Are you? You're a grown woman. You're a grown woman, Christine. You do your thing. You're smart at it too. So don't listen to me anymore. It goes to football. I'll keep it short. Von Miller's gone. I'm picking the Cowboys. It should be. I think it'll be a little bit rusty because like you said, they're playing on a short week, but they should be able to win this game pretty handily. An intriguing one here, a battle of 4-4s. You got the Patriots and the Panthers. So you start this one.
Patriots and Panthers. Let's see where I can find my cheat sheet. Okay, it's in Carolina. New England's favored by 2.5. This is supposed to be, the Cam Newton return to the Charlotte Bowl, but Cam Newton's sitting on the couch just like the rest of us. While Mac Jones is improving every week for the Patriots. Let's see. Carolina got back on track last week. The Patriots had an upset at LA against the Chargers last Sunday afternoon. I still don't trust the Panthers, even though they're at home. Like I said, New England's favored by 2.5. I'm going with Bill Belichick and the Patriots.
Yeah, I'm going with the Patriots too for this one. There are still O-line issues that Carolina's having right now. So if you want to go with the more stable team, I would go with New England.
Yeah, as much as it pains me, I'm picking the Patriots. I just for the O-line, yeah. As much as it pains me to say it, but look, watch Sam Darnold had his best game this season, throw for like 4 touchdowns or whatever. Maybe that's just weird how that happens, right? All right, you got the 3-4 Vikings, fresh off a bye. Ravens, I think the Ravens will not be in a very good mood after what happened against Disney a couple weeks back. They've had the bye week to think about it. They get back on track. So, and the Vikings, their offensive calling is just putrid. So, the Ravens big.
Yeah, it was a tough loss for the Vikings on Sunday, but it's home field advantage for the Ravens. That, like you said, Lakeena, they're coming off of a bye, so they've had enough time to rest. Their fans are crazy at their stadium. I think this one's going to the Ravens, Baltimore.
I know Baltimore's favored by 6, and I know the last road game that the Vikings played, they actually stole one in Carolina in overtime. I know logic should tell me to go with the Vikings, even though they had a week off too. I just don't trust them. Hush, young lady. I just don't trust the Vikings. They really pissed that game away last Sunday night against the Cowboys, even though I did pick the Cowboys to win. Thank you very much. But I just don't trust the Vikings offense right now. They're too inconsistent, despite Justin Jefferson and Dalvin Cook being on my fantasy team, which is besides the point. But I just don't trust them. They got to show me something. I'm going with Baltimore. It probably will be an ugly game. Maybe the score won't be that ugly. But I'm going with Baltimore. Minnesota's got to show me more, especially on the offensive end.
All right. Good one here in the AFC North. You got the Browns and the Bengals. Christine, you start this one.
Wow, a lot of drama happening this week with the Browns, huh? Just unfolding like crazy. It's a good matchup. It's a good Ohio matchup. I can't believe the Bengals lost to the Jets. Like, who saw that coming? I didn't see that coming. The Browns right now are last in the division. Cincinnati, they need this win, and it's got to be Cincinnati. There's way too much garbage, I'll call it, going on right now with the Browns, and now with Odell sitting on the couch like the rest of us will be now for at least a few days. Who knows where he's going to go next? So, yeah, I'm going to go with Cincinnati.
All right, don't make me look stupid here, Cincy. I mean, you made us look silly last week at the Jets. Fool me once, so don't do it to me twice. So it's going to be a close one, but I picked the Bengals.
Call me crazy, guys. I'm going with Cleveland. Sometimes controversy can do the best for a team. Of course, Odell Beckham Jr. wasn't a useful tool, no pun intended, useful tool to them anyway. It's all running the ball with the Browns. I know they're going on the road. That's another good thing. They don't have to face the crazy fans in Cleveland. They actually be at Cincinnati. It's an in-state rival, division rival. Call me crazy, but this could make some logical sense. I'm going with Cleveland.
You're crazy.
I can kind of see it though, but again, you never know. But you never know. We'll see.
This is a big spot for Cincinnati, as you mentioned, Christine. They lost to the Jets. Not too many people saw that coming. If they want to be a playoff team, they got to take care of their business at home against a divisional opponent. So the more pressure is on Cincinnati for this week, especially after what happened last week.
Yeah, true, very true. Both teams, I think, are probably under various pressures. I'm going to keep it short for this next one. We got the Bills and the Jags. Bills, you better not lose this one. You better not. Josh Allen, I think, will have a big day. The defense will, just suffocate Trevor Lawrence. So I'm going to pick the Bills. If you make me look stupid, Bills, I swear I will never forgive y'all. You won't be forgiven.
I'm hopping on that with you and saying, Buffalo, don't let me down. Don't do it today. So, Lakeena, yeah, you and I are on the same page.
Buffalo's favored by 10.5. If you're a smart man, you should take that bet and run away with it. I'm going with Buffalo.
All right, couple of 1-7s battle it out in the AFC. You got the Texans and the Dolphins. City, you start this one.
Keeping with the theme of folks sitting on the couch, Deshaun Watson is getting paid sitting on the couch. I'm technically a member of the Texans, but I do not want to be there much longer. I could have played for the Dolphins, but I'm not going to cooperate with that owner, Stephen Ross, in selling those cases. But that's a whole nother issue. But back to the game. Can Tua get it together against that bad defense? Will Davis Mills show up and give the Texans a second win of the victory? If I was a betting man, first of all, I would stay away from this game. But for those of you that want to bet, my cheat sheet just went blank, I guess, because the game's so terrible. Houston, they're a +7 favorite, so Miami's favored by 7. So Miami is the home team. I guess just because they're the home team, I'm going with Miami. Enough said. This is going to get ugly.
This is going to be really bad, but they could actually win the Dolphins. I'm kind of rooting for this one, but wouldn't it be so funny if Deshaun Watson just walks out in a Dolphins jersey on Sunday? That hilarious. I know it can't happen, and I know it's not going to happen, but that will break all the headlines right there. But yeah, Miami for this one.
Miami, keep it short and sweet. Mm-hmm. All right, you got the Raiders and the Giants. The Raiders have not had a good week off the field. Especially, I thought maybe Gruden was the problem here, but unfortunately, we won't get into it because Google's out there, folks. The Giants. I know this is going to be the Raiders traveling cross country, against New York. Look, I think Derek Carr probably takes his team on his back, and they should be able to win it handily. But I think it's going to be close. But I still picking the Raiders.
Yeah, my heart goes out to that family dealing with all that stuff right now. That's not a good situation. So they all definitely need some good vibes right now. The Giants did hold their own last week with the Chiefs, but now you got Derek Carr, and who knows, maybe this team will come out of this adversary because they've been through it enough this year. So I'm gonna say Las Vegas, just because I think they need a little bit of boost right now.
Logic says you should take the Giants, even though they're 2.5-point underdogs at home. Like you mentioned, Christine, I did watch that game closely, and the Giants gave the Chiefs all they had. I think it was more about the Chiefs than it was about the Giants, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
But the Raiders, I think two things. Like I said, mentioned with the Cleveland-Cincinnati game. Of course, the Raiders are dealing with much more serious things. But first thing is you have a game to play right away. Number two, you're going on the road. So I know it's going to be some national media there, but you're not worried about that. You're just going to go out there on the road and focus on your job. And I think the Raiders will do that. So the Raiders should win.
Yeah.
I totally agree. We go around that. Chargers and Eagles. Chargers. Okay, this the travel they shouldn't be an issue because they're playing at 3:00, so this is definitely their time. I hope they can bounce back from that loss to the Patriots. So I'm picking the Chargers, and don't let me down, Justin Herbert. Have your best game the last few weeks. Let's go.
I think Justin Herbert will come back for this one. They should win it. So, yeah, I'm going to go with the Chargers.
Chargers are favored by 3. Of course, Philadelphia destroyed the Lions last week on the road. The Chargers. What's up?
Say that one more time. Just so you can say that one more time.
Oh, one more again, as you kids would say. Philadelphia destroyed Detroit on the road last week. Of course, the Chargers, we said what we said about them losing to the Patriots at home. This is going to be a good one. Philadelphia is not that good. The Chargers should get back on track. I'm going with the Chargers.
Hopefully Justin Herbert has a big bounce back game. Now, lots going on here with this game coming up, both on and off the field. You got the Packers and the 4-4 Chiefs. That's will be
Fox is America's game of the week.
Yep.
And your boy Joe Buck, Christine.
Yeah, Buck and Aikman in the game will be calling this one. Sid, you start this.
I think this is the best thing to happen to the Packers. I'll say this. I said this once. I'll say it again, Lakeena. This is Aaron Rodgers' last run in the Packers uniform. Green Bay fans, get ready. You're going to see the future starting on Sunday. Jordan Love, what is he going to do? We don't know, but I kind of think it's going to be scary close. I don't think it's going to be a blowout. Kansas City, they've been exposed all year long. If you didn't pay attention to their game last Monday, I don't know what you've been watching, but I expect Kansas City to win, but it's going to be ugly, scary close. And the line for that game is 2.5 points. So what Vegas is saying is Kansas City is still slightly favored, but it's a lot of money and a lot of favoritism going towards the Packers. It's just about the unknown, what Jordan Love is going to do. I know some people are going to throw out the stat and say, Jordan Love played on opening day at the Saints. Remember, folks, that game was in a blowout. No one cares. And so this is going to be his first professional start. So it's about the unknown. And I think it has to do more with that. And then secondly, the way Kansas City's been playing all year long. But I'm going with Kansas City here. I know Fox is worried about losing some viewers. I don't think so. Everybody's waiting to see what Jordan Love does. And so Fox will probably have his biggest ratings up to this point this season, even though Aaron Rodgers won't be playing.
Yeah, can I just say I'm immunized, guys, just to let you know that. I have that. Yeah, this is just, Mahomes and Rodgers, they've never really had a true meeting. Seriously, because last year Mahomes was injured, that didn't work out. Now Rodgers is now COVID positive. That's not going to happen. So with all that being said, I just don't see Green Bay winning this one, unfortunately, just because you're kind of throwing the kid into the fire, so to speak. So I will give this one to Kansas City. It could be a close game. It honestly could be, but we'll see what Mahomes does with his crew, which hopefully is a lot better than what they have been looking lately. So
Devontae Adams will be back in the Packers lineup. Receiver.
I've been back and forth with this game, and I kind of even before the Rodgers news. So, the defense, is still in question for me for the Chiefs. Will they give the ball to Aaron Jones a little bit more? I know he complimented the Chiefs defense, kill him with kindness, as they say. So, you know what? I'll do it. I'll pick the Packers. I think it's not going to be because of Jordan Love. It's going to be their running game. I think that's going to be the key for them. And I think Aaron Jones will have like about 150 yards and like maybe a couple of touchdowns. And that'll propel them to this win against the Chiefs. Let's
see what that Packers defense does against Patrick Mahomes.
It could be
the Giants forced a couple of turnovers last Monday night.
Yeah.
Let's see what the Packers do the same here.
It's doable, very doable. Good one here in the NFC West. You got the Cardinals and the 49ers. Christine, you start this one.
See, this is my game I was going back and forth on. I don't know. This could be a good one, too. It's a close call, but I think I'm giving it to the Birds. I honestly think I'm going to give it to the Birds with this one. Jimmy G, they did look great last week against the Bears. I'll say that. They had a really good game. But Arizona, they were undefeated at one point. So Arizona.
I've been going back and forth on this game too. I know, of course, Arizona had a couple of extra days off. They had the bad taste in their mouth losing to the Packers last Thursday. Mm-hmm. I know AJ Green still looking for that penalty flag. It's not coming back, brother. So leave it alone. San Francisco, as you mentioned, Christine, they looked great last week here in Chicago. Jimmy G, as we said on Monday, Lakeena, Jimmy G looked like the early years of Steve Young at the helm for the 49ers, running, stumbling into the end zone.
I know. Make a decision.
I know. Arizona's favored by 3. I know they won there last year. I'm gonna hop on your bandwagon, Christy. I'm giving it to the Birds, but I wouldn't be surprised if San Francisco won, though. I wouldn't be surprised. But I'm going with Arizona.
Yeah, I wouldn't either. I'm still picking the Cardinals, though. I know they're saying that maybe Kyler Murray may not be 100% for this game, but I think they still have, a lot of weapons. They can do the run game. Give it to James Conner and Rondell Moore and just let them kind of carry them. The 49ers look good against the Bears, but then again, who has looked good against the Bears this year except for the Lions? So,
right.
So who hasn't looked good against the Bears? But I think it'll be close though, because these are two division teams. So I'm picking the Cardinals, but it's going to be very close. All right, a good one here on Sunday night. You got the 6-2 Titans and the Los Angeles Rams. Adrian Peterson might be able to play. I guess I know he's got to go through like COVID protocols and such. I think because they're at home, I'm picking the Rams, although it's going to be, this should be a really good one, even without Derrick Henry.
I was going to say, without Derrick Henry, I don't think they're going to pull it off, unfortunately. He was kind of the glue for that team, man. He was the glue to my fantasy football team.
Well, that's 3 injuries for Christine's fantasy football team.
Seriously, if you look at my fantasy list with my radio partner, Andy, it's bad. We've had injury after injury. Our team's just been destroyed by injuries. But like Lakeena said, because it's a home game, I'm going with the Rams.
This should get ugly, unfortunately. I have the Rams as well. I was really looking forward to this game, but damn you, injury bug to Derrick Henry. It was really going to be good, but I said the Rams are the best team in the NFC, probably the best team in the NFL.
Yeah.
I cannot see why they can't win this game, so I'm going with the Rams for this one. And the Rams are currently 4-point favorites.
Good.
Okay, that sounds about right. Yeah, that sounds about right. With injury with Henry. All right. Last but not least, it also happens to be a Monday nighter here. You got the Bears and the Steelers. Christine, you start this one.
Gosh, I don't know what to say. They can't win with Nagy. They can't win without Nagy. It's just, I don't know what to say about this team at this point. But besides, I'm just accepting the fact that besides whenever Detroit's coming up, I don't think they're going to win any more games this year, just because everything is just so up in the air between the coaching staff and then Fields trying to find his place on the team right now, finding his footing and all that. I was really impressed by last week how they really did hold their own there with the 49ers. I thought for a second that they were going to win and pull it off. And then, of course, the 49ers ended up pulling ahead. With the news of David Montgomery coming back for practice, that's promising. I'm hoping that we get Tariq Cohen back in there too at one point. But after the game last week, and my conclusion was this: we definitely need a different coaching staff, because something else is going on, and it's time to move on from the Nagy era, I think. So with that being said, Pittsburgh's gonna take it home, especially being at their home field on Monday night.
Yeah, we'll get into the rumor mill in just a second, Christine, regarding the Bears. There is some news that came out of there about the coaching stuff. We'll get into that in just a moment. But as far as the game is concerned, the Steelers are favored by 5 points, and that's about right. As we said, Lakeena, the Bears could steal this one. On the flip side, Ben Roethlisberger could have the game of his life.
Yeah.
He's 39 years old. He's one hit away from sitting on the couch next to us and holding the cane in his hand.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. That's unfortunate too. Yeah.
Call me a pessimist, but I see Pittsburgh winning a close one. I just do. Just do. I'm going with Pittsburgh.
Yeah,
I hope I'm wrong, but I'm trying to go with my head instead of my you-know-what. So I'm going with Pittsburgh.
Yeah, I think Fields will still have a pretty good game. I think he'll get maybe a touchdown pass or two. I think he keeps them in it, but I think the fact that if you're the Steelers, I think you use your running game, you use Najee Harris, to kind of lead you to the promised land. So I think it'll be Harris that helps propel the Steelers. It's going to be close. It's going to be one of those ugly games. So, and no Manning cast, unfortunately. So they decided. That was a bummer. Yeah, I know. When I heard that news, I saw. Yeah, they're not. You won't be.
Maybe they know something that we don't know.
Maybe they do, and Vegas probably does too. It's going to be a close one, but I'm picking the Steelers. I just think, I think Big Ben will probably have one of his best games of the season. So, but Nagy must go, as Armando said. That's probably what ended up happening. But those are picks for Week 9 of the NFL. This is going pretty quick, guys. I mean, it's a little crazy. But all right, so what was your rumor that you heard about the Nagy and the rest of the coaching staff for the Bears?
Actually, it came on the podcast. Benjamin Albright, he's an NFL insider for KOA Radio AM 850 in Denver. I believe that's still the Broncos flagship station. Sean Sierra, our guy from Sean and Maya in the Morning, you can listen to him and watch him on YouTube every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 9 to noon Chicago time, right here on YouTube at Sports Zone Chicago. He played a clip that Benjamin Albright was on a local podcast here in Chicago, and he said that he's been hearing rumors that the McCaskies could be serious of getting rid of Nagy and Pace by the end of the year. As I said before, Lakeena, I've been telling people the McCaskies first of all, they're not selling the team. So for those of you that want that to happen, that's not happening. But number two, they're great business decision makers, but when it comes to football, not good. One more again, as you young folks would say. They're great decision makers in terms of business, but in terms of football, not so good. So if this rumor becomes true at the end of the year, so be it. Like we talked about before, Lakeena, Justin Fields, I believe, can be and will be good in the Bears uniform, but it has to be under the new coaching staff. And so far this season, the games that we watched, that opinion has not changed for me.
What about you, Christine?
I agree. It's time to move on. The McCaskies gave Pace and Nagy another year, another chance. I don't think they're going to let Nagy go in the middle of the season. They have not done that ever, and I don't think that this would be an exception. So they're going to let Nagy, ride it out, play it out, and see what happens going forward. But I think right now they're definitely starting a head coach search for sure.
Yeah, Bridgman's pretty plugged in, so I'm thinking that maybe he probably, there might be some truth to this, but until we actually see it, I'll believe it when I see it. So, that this is not their wheelhouse, the McCaskies, I should say. So, but again, it wouldn't surprise me. But it seems like that's the only way. Maybe especially if you want, Justin Fields to really develop, have a coaching staff that will value him and utilize him fully. So, we'll see. Now, real quick, Christine, what are your thoughts on the Bulls as they get ready to try to get their revenge against the Sixers tomorrow?
I think they're doing great. They beat my expectations so far. That's for sure. If they keep this momentum going, I think they're all relatively healthy at this point. I saw an article yesterday that the team is all vaccinated at 100%, which is amazing for that to even happen. So that just goes to show me that they're all in on this. No matter what side they lean towards, they want to do what's right for the team. And if that's, getting vaccinated, and if is coming together as a team, I can expect a lot of great things. I'm still sticking to my guns when I said at the beginning, I don't think they're going to, win the championship. I don't think they're going to go all the way, but they're definitely going to make a solid run, I think.
And not to end the show on the sour note, Christine, but what did you think about the Phoenix Suns owner situation? Robert Sarver, of course, misogyny and racism. There's been over 70 people interviewed. The report came out thanks to Baxter Holmes of ESPN.com. Of course, now the NBA is launching its investigation. And I know people are comparing this to Donald Sterling about 7 or 8 years ago. We all know how that situation turned out. The NBA has no choice, assuming when the investigation is complete, the NBA has no choice but to force Robert Sarver to sell the team, correct? They have no choice but to do the right thing, especially now that in the era, in the society that we're living in today.
Yeah, right. And I got to be honest, I know a little bit of the story. I don't know enough to comment about it, but what I will say is this: it's terrible. It's terrible. The world that we live in is still full of that hatred. It's the 21st century. I mean, it's almost 2022. We should be past this, but unfortunately, there are just some people that don't use common sense, that don't use their head. So in that regard, I will say the NBA has to do whatever they have to do. They're a little bit more, they're on the stricter scale when it comes to organizations that really crack down on things. That's for sure.
That's what they have to comment the NBA on. But let's end this on a happy note there, you guys. What are you looking forward to this weekend?
I'm going to be in Vegas in a few hours.
Oh, nice.
Oh,
okay.
All right.
Cool. Yeah.
Is it a girl's trip or is it a significant other trip?
So my boyfriend, he's a golfer. He has a tournament out there. So I'm gonna go out there for a few days, enjoy the nice warm weather over there, and be back here by Monday afternoon. So it's a quick trip.
Oh, okay. Still very cool. And Vegas is all type of stuff. So you'll definitely
I've never been to Vegas, so I'm excited. I kind of have a little itinerary planned out.
Yeah,
nice.
I've been to Vegas 3 times, so you're going to enjoy yourself, young lady. So don't get into any trouble.
No,
if you're going to bet, make sure you strip you stick to your gambling budget, and you should be fine.
Yes.
Well, exactly. And plus, daylight savings is this weekend. So I feel like I'm going to be in 3 different time zones in one weekend. So
Yeah, probably.
that's going to be fun.
Yeah, daylight savings time is full, so make sure you set your clocks back and get ready for a 4 o'clock sunset. So that's all. That's all I'm gonna say. I'm looking forward to a lot of the college footballs, to the NBA games we talked about earlier, Sid, and and also to some of the marquee games in the NFL. There are a couple of good ones. So, and the Aaron Rodgers stuff, we won't talk about that. Cause I know I saw some of his comments earlier, and I'm like, okay, not gonna leave that alone. We're not gonna comment on that.
Of course, I'm looking forward to the Bulls game tomorrow. Hopefully, they'll get their revenge on the 76ers. Of course, all the great games on Sunday. That Packers Chiefs is going to be exciting for a whole lot more reasons. I know we got less than a minute left, Christine. Baseball season is over. What are your thoughts about the Atlanta Braves beating the Houston Astros? I know you're a happy person.
Thank God. Thank God. Good for Freddie Freeman, too.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, and Ron Washington too, of course, third base coach, finally gets his first World Series ring. And so, you're happy for a lot of those guys on that team. Brian Switzer got his first, gets his first ring, when people thought that he should be gone. So look, you gotta feel happy for everybody on the Braves organization. Also too, they was for Hank, I think I heard one that the owners say. So very, very good news all around. You follow me at Keena McGee on the Twitter and at Keena_McGee on the IG.
You can follow yours truly, Sydney Brown, on the Twitter and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80. Christine, where can people follow you?
They can follow me on Twitter at CManika_KXRB.
All right, it's going to be a nice one here this weekend. It's going to be in the 60s here in Chicago this week, folks. So, but be careful. Still, that's pneumonia weather, folks. Just saying, be careful out there. For Sid and Christine, I'm Lakeena. This is Second City Sports. Also, we got to thank Marshall Harris for CBS 2 Chicago for joining us today. Great interview as well. You can follow. Make sure you follow him every weeknight on CBS 2 in Chicago and the surrounding areas. So for Sid, Christine, I'm Lakeena. This is Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago, and we'll see you next week.
Balls, holla!